We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick. My name is Kirk Henderson, and I'm joined, as always, by my fellow site runner and editor over at MavsMoneyball.com, Josh Bowe. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Vindication. I think that's the theme of tonight's show.
Like, really alarmingly accurate prediction from you. I'm kind of shocked. For those of you who may not know, the Dallas Mavericks are heading to the NBA Finals after defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves 124-103 in a game that was a laugher after about 15 minutes because Luka Doncic is the best basketball player on the planet, and he let those fine folks in Minnesota know early and often, and the Wolves never had a chance. Josh, what'd you think, man?
It was very, this is an original thought, but it was very much Suns Game 7 from 2022. Just Luka demoralizing a rowdy home playoff crowd in an elimination game and basically ending the game in one half. I mean, it was a 29-point lead for the Mavericks after one half, and really, it was over. Like, I know leads can shrink quickly in the modern NBA, but the Wolves are not a team equipped to make large comebacks like this. I know they did a couple times in the playoffs, but
sure,
if you're a betting man, you just wouldn't bet on this offense being able to overcome a 29-point deficit. And yeah, that's just, it was just add another one to Luka's ridiculous resume of just these crazy his playoff resume is ridiculous for someone at age 25. It's just like the games that he's put up, the moments, the plays, the shots. It's just never really seen anything like it for someone that hasn't even turned 26 years old yet, I don't think. Maybe LeBron, even Michael Jordan, he didn't win a title till he was 27. Like, it took a while for some of these guys to break through unless you're like LeBron or Giannis. But it's crazy to watch.
Guys, I got to tell you, it's any Luka Doncic hate at this point boils down to not liking him, not liking his game, not liking his antics, not liking some of the things that he does on the court. But you simply cannot deny him as a player. You can't do it. He's so good when he really locks in and gets it going that he feels utterly inevitable. He had a 20-point first quarter. He came into the game. He gets the first bucket that he scores was Rudy Gobert. It was goaltending, which maybe wasn't goaltending. And then Luka proceeded to hit two left where they both one of them might have been a step back. A pair of catching like just deep threes over Anthony Edwards, where within he scored 10 points in the first 3 minutes of the game. And it was very clear that, at least as far as Luka's scoring was going to go, the Wolves were in for a long night. There was not a single thing they could do about him. And as the quarter dragged along, it got worse. He hit a logo three that was disgusting. and followed that up where the Wolves are basically trying to trap him at half court by spinning out of the trap and getting right to the edge of the top of the key and drilling another three-pointer where Kyle Anderson, who was probably the best Wolves defensive player on Luka in the series, sort of throws his hands up in disgust, like, what the hell am I supposed to do about this? And that's the answer. I'm saying that's the point. What the hell are you supposed to do is nothing. You cannot defeat Luka when he gets going like that offensively.
I mean, this is going to be a common occurrence. I'm going to say how many years have we been doing this podcast and talking about this, because I feel like a lot of that stuff is just came true, and a lot of narratives and storylines and analysis just all kind of coalesced. How many times have we said when he makes threes, he's unguardable, he's unbeatable, and when he makes threes, the Mavericks don't lose? Like, they really don't. Like, if he makes 5 or more threes in a game, you're not winning. Like, it's very difficult to beat the Mavericks when he's making that many threes in a game. He made 6. He was 6 of 10 because for the first, what would you say, 3-4 years of his NBA career, making threes was actually probably the sorest spot of his game, just efficiency wise. Now he made a lot, but his percentages were pretty mediocre to bad his first couple years. I mean, he was 32%, 31% his first 2 seasons, then 35, 35, 34. Like, yeah, he made a lot because he takes a lot, but it wasn't like at a percentage that necessarily scared you. Now this season he's at 38, and I don't think it's a surprise that he led the league in scoring when he made 38% of his threes and had one of his best scoring seasons of his career. Well, he had the best scoring season of his career. And it's not surprising that the Mavericks are in the finals, and he shot 43.4% from 3 in these 5 games. Like Luka missing threes is like, you just hope that happens, because try to do whatever you try to do for everything else, he usually has an answer. But if he's making threes, you're up S Creek without a paddle, so to speak. It's just you're fighting a losing battle if he's making threes, and he made threes this series.
I mean, he shot, like, dang, dude. After shooting 7 of 21 in the last game, Luka shot 14 of 22 in this game, including 6 of 10 from 3. Yeah. And he was simply unguardable early, which effectively broke what the Timberwolves hoped to do. And even if, let's just say in an alternate reality, the Wolves had closed it to like 10 or 12 points, I still don't think it would have mattered, because the Mavericks were they were playing so free at that point in the game. Sorry if you hear anything in the background. I still got the TNT coverage on, because I want to just keep an eye on it out of the corner of my eye. Apparently Jaden Hardy is going live on IG, which shout out to Jaden Hardy. And the Mavericks just answered over and over again. And I knew it was going to be gross, like really, truly gross, because first quarter leads happen when Kyrie Irving, who had a little bit of a rough first quarter, knifes into the lane to score the last basket of the quarter for the Mavericks to put them up 36-19. Because you give that guy that clean of a look, you see the ball go through the net, things are going to start to happen for him. And in the second quarter, with Luka on the bench, the Mavericks continued to build the lead. That is not something we've seen a ton of in Luka's time in the playoffs, where Luka time on the bench is almost always bad. And in this case, Kyrie and the Maverick bench really stuck it to the Wolves. It was sort of shocking, where you would expect the Wolves to land some sort of counterpunch, but this goes back to what you said during, and I listened to the last 20 minutes of our pre-series podcast, where you said a team with mediocre offense cannot beat these Mavericks. They just can't do it. And the Wolves buckets tonight, I mean, I just want to take a minute to give credit to Anthony Edwards and to Karl Anthony Towns. You know, Towns was 9 of 20 for 28 points, 12 boards. Edwards was 10 of 18 from the floor with 9 boards and 6 assists, also scored 28 points. But man, their baskets in the first half in particular were labored. The Wolves only scored 4 points in the final 6 minutes of the first quarter. That's when the game died, right then. Because the Wolves, there were other stretches where the Wolves couldn't score, but I mean, they really couldn't score. It's
They went from the 5-minute mark of the first quarter to the 10:52 mark of the second quarter without a made field goal. Couple of free throws, but no made field goals for what is that?
Mm-hmm.
That's about maybe 6 minutes of NBA time with no field goals. That's a long time to not get a bucket. Even if you made, only, I think they made like 3 free throws in that time, or I guess it'd be like 4. You said they had 4 points. So yeah, that was like, and that's just Mavericks defense. That's kind of been their calling card this playoffs, where it's like for a 3 to 6 minute stretch, it's like, all right, you're just not making any more shots. You're just not going to do it. And that was tough for the Wolves coming in, because the Mavericks did that to the Clippers and they did that to the Thunder, who both had top 10 offenses entering these playoffs, and the Wolves had the 16th. Now, obviously, they were better in the first 2 rounds, but can't hide the leopard spots there. Like it just kind of came to roost eventually.
Well, just a quick note. I saw someone, a Twitter follower in the chat, Skyfall, also at Polarfall on Twitter. He is a South Korean NBA fan who puts out some of the best sort of, for English as a second language, let's just say the man's analysis of NBA and explaining play breakdown and mechanics and why specific things are working down to a really granular level. Go check out his feed at Polar Fall. He says hi in the chat, and I love seeing people from all over the planet pop in here. It really just reminds me of how cool basketball is as a community. So yeah, it's interesting because this game's over in the first half, and I am writing the recap, and I ended up writing about, I ended up not doing any analysis, quite candidly, because when the analysis is you have the best player in the world, there's only so much you can get out of it. This game was a good reminder of how important the two-headed center combination is to what the Mavericks want to do.
Don't think it's a surprise that the Mavericks only lost this season in this series was without Derek Lively.
Now, the plus-minus in this game was hilariously reversed, where Lively's was meh and Daniel Gafford's was incredible. But
the Mavericks also took their foot off the gas for a lot of the second half, which is where some of that. I wonder what Lively's. If the box score can update fast enough, I would love to see what Lively's. Oh, it does. Let's see what Lively's plus minus was in the first half. He was a +9 in the first half.
Sure.
So there you go.
Well, and we're glad that Lively got out of that series healthy. He took a inadvertent but still painful looking shot from Naz Reid. Lively's just really good, man. I was really pleased to see him out there. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I desperately wanted him to shoot a 3 in that game.
Just for fun.
Just to see if he has it. I want to see a shot. We never see him shoot. And everybody talks about how he can shoot. I
want to say about Lively, I shared this in our Slack. I don't know if you saw it, but watching him in the first half, I can't remember what the exact play was, but it was an ant. I don't know who was set, if it was Gobert or Reed or Towns, but it was an ant pick and roll with Anthony Edwards as ball handler. And Lively played up and basically switched. And Ant tried to, like a lot of lead ball handlers, when the big plays that aggressive, is they tried to string the big out to the perimeter and try to get around the help. Because once you beat if the big's playing that far up and you beat him at the perimeter, well, guess what? There's no big at the rim, right? Because that's your rim protector. So if you can get around him and take advantage of him playing that far out, you can maybe get a good clean look at the paint. Like Luka does that all the time. Like that's one of his bread and butter things when teams play him aggressive in the pick and roll. And Ant tried. He strung him all the way out to the side because it was a middle of the floor pick and roll to the right side. And he strung him all the way out, tried to go around the 3-point line, just kept going, try to get around him, and he never did. And Lively totally shut off his water, and he had to pass out and reset the possession. And I was thinking,
that doesn't happen, by the way, guys. That just doesn't fucking happen. That's Draymond Green shit.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, the same way when I watched Luka when Luka was 20, and I saw the things that he did on offense, and I was flabbergasted at the things that he was able to do as a 20-year-old on offense. I'm thinking the same thoughts when I watch Derek Lively on defense. I'm thinking, how is a 20-year-old doing this stuff on the defensive end? And that, I think me and you were skeptical. I think we both enjoyed the Mavericks strategy on draft night. We maybe weren't entirely sold on the player from what we've talked to smarter, people that were smarter than us. But we both were like, this is totally like the right archetype. They're doing the right thing by taking a player, because I think we were concerned that they were going to try to trade that pick for a veteran.
Yeah.
I think we were just pleased with they took someone because they just needed to take someone. And then from there, we just kind of were like, okay, let's see. Like, we were very cautious because we've both watched enough NBA to know that rookie big men don't normally contribute on playoff teams. Like, that's not a knock against
Lively. They don't normally contribute to teams.
Yeah, unless you're like in that Embiid tier of like a superstar, kind of big. And even Embiid, was hurt for his, his first few seasons. So
I may need to go re-listen.
It's crazy.
I may need to go re-listen to the podcast I did with Rafael Barlow. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter around draft season.
He was on it from day one.
At Barlow is spelled BARLOE 500. Rafael Barlow. We did a podcast together, and he told me about Lively, and he's just like he wasn't trying to oversell him. He was just like, look, man, this guy's good. He's good at basketball. He improved rapidly. And I want to say my friend Robbie Callan told me that by the end of the NCAA season, he was the best defender in the NCAA, which sounds ridiculous.
He was putting up like 8 blocks in their conference.
And then you watch this game and you're like, oh, but he did it at the NBA level, which is something else. Like, I don't even know how to properly contextualize it.
And did it against this team, by the way, which we saw, which I thought was really poetic that you brought up when you watched this Mavericks team in the preseason against this Wolves team. And they kind of was like, welcome to the NBA moment for Lively going against Towns and Gobert. And now look, and like, less than 12 months later, look at where he is now. It's just doing it against this team. Like, he was ridiculous. And I just can't, we can talk more about him later, maybe later. I can't emphasize how great he was. And he's 20. Like, it's just nuts.
Well, all right. We're at about the halfway point because, we're going to talk a lot the next week. The final start June 6th. I have to drive to Texas A&M at 5:30 that morning. So I really look forward to how loopy I'm going to be by the time game 1 of the NBA Finals is over. God, what a great way to just feels good to say. We should all you know what, I'm going to bring it up after the break. Guys, while you're here, welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. We're really grateful that you're here. We record after every game as quickly as possible. We go live here on YouTube and then post that to our audio podcast streams. Those of you who are in here, if you could do me a favor and like the stream, also consider subscribing. Those who are watching the video later, finding it on YouTube, do me a favor and leave a comment. I love reading the comments. I need to be better about responding to them, but I have a lot of stuff I try to balance during the day between my real job and all this and Mavs stuff, so I sometimes don't get to it. Everybody listening on the audio stream, please consider leaving a review. Subscribe if you haven't as well, if you're finding our show by some interesting means. We also record, particularly during the playoffs, and I will get better next season when I don't have a newborn, about doing a secondary live show, Mavs Party or group therapy, where you can join this just as easily as you join Zooms for work or if you've used your phone. It's real fun. We get new people in here all the time. We talk basketball. Josh and I, me in particular, Josh is actually a trained journalist. I started doing this because I wanted to have people to talk basketball with, and I like talking basketball. It is a simple sport that is so complex and really fun to discuss, and I love actually talking about it on YouTube and with people rather than arguing about it over Twitter or Reddit or anything else. So please consider hanging out after this show. Now, Josh and I are going to insert our audio ads. That's how we actually make a little bit of money off of this. So if you could hang out, we will be right back.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
This episode is supported by FX's Clipped, the scandalous story of the 2014 Clippers owner's racist remarks captured on tape and heard around the world. The series charts the tape's impact on a dysfunctional basketball organization striving to win against their reputation as the most cursed team in the league. Starring Lawrence Fishburne, Jackie Weaver, Cleopatra Coleman, and Ed O'Neill. FX's Clipped, streaming June 4th, only on Hulu.
Okay, so quick shout out to some folks who are leaving us some super stickers and tips. 7 Harry Lime, appreciate that tip very much. Wade Lamb says, let's go. Feels weird to be going to the finals and not facing Miami. Carry us to the promised land, Kirk and Josh. Marco says, Kuzma didn't want to join this team because we were not true contenders. Guess who's laughing now? Great comment. Our man Cowboy, regular listener and also regular tipper, says Mavs did a good job at making Edwards dribble too much. The Wolves played street ball because Edwards dribbled so much and couldn't run sets. I would need to see it again, but the Wolves, I think the Wolves may need a point guard. If they're not going to let Ant run offense, then they're going to need a point guard who is not Mike Conley. Mike Conley is obviously amazing, but Mike Conley was battling an injury this whole series, and that's just a tough thing to ask. Our man Glenn says, yeah, it sucks for Minneapolis that they had to play the Mavs at full strength with Lively and Kleenex. Unfair. Our man Henry says, sorry, I'm late. Supreme, Kyrie, Luka the Don, Mavs and 6. Also has my friend Jeremy donated yet. I'm trying to see something. Fan 123, where are you at? Look, I love our crazy commenters. You guys are nuts. Speaking of crazy commenters, shout out to Cameron for a massive tip. Thanks, guys. Listen to you throughout the years. Go Mavs. 13 years has flown by. Wow. What a tip, Cameron. That really helps make my night. Really appreciate your guys' support. What were we talking about before the break? Because there was a number of things that I wanted to.
We were talking about Lively, but we were also you were talking about how your recap was less analysis because it's kind of such a big moment. I wanted to talk because I know we're probably going to spend most of the second half of this podcast talking about like bigger picture narrative things. There was one more analysis thing I wanted to hit on about this game specifically and why it was over so fast. In the first half, Luka was 3 of 4 in the paint outside of the restricted area, like in that floater range. And what did we talk about ad nauseum after game 4 was Luka needs to stop passing up those shots and start converting in the paint because that's what the Wolves were going to give him because they were content playing 2-on-2 and shutting off the role players. And in the first half, he destroyed that coverage. And then that's where, that's where everything flows downhill. Because then it's like, now the Wolves are like, oh, shit, we can't keep letting him score in the paint. We got to bring help. And then you bring help, and then it's over, So, and that's when role players start making shots. That's when they start feeling comfortable. And then now you got the boulder screaming down the hill at an alarming speed. And I think that's how the game got away so quickly for Minnesota and why the Mavs started off so hot.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a weird notification from our guy Brent. I don't understand. Oh, never mind. I see what he did. My biggest problem when writing, I don't know about you. I recommend Grammarly to everyone who uses who writes. But one thing Grammarly can't catch is when you use the wrong word, which he pointed out to me. So shout out to my guy Brent if he's listening. He probably does later. Brent's a good guy. Filibuster for me while I go fix something hilariously bad in the recap.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I was just saying. Luka in the paint, and he finished 5 of 7 in the paint outside the restricted area. He actually had 0 restricted area shots, which is kind of funny. But again, that's what the Wolves were doing in the pick and roll. Is they're just like, and it's the way to guard the Mavericks. It's the best way in my mind because they're a really hard team to guard right now. Is just let Luka work in the pick and roll. Don't bring help. Don't double. Don't blitz. Let him make floaters. Let him make mid-range shots because that's better than letting these role players get wide open shots that otherwise they're not going to create for themselves. Like, would you rather have Derek Jones Jr. shooting a wide open spot up corner 3, or have him covered and you try to just guard Luka taking longer, inefficient quote unquote 2s? But when Luka's is good, that's what makes them unguardable because then you got to switch up your defense. And PJ hit shots, Derek Jones Jr. hit shots. I mean, everyone hit shots. They were 15 to 34 from 3. PJ hit 2 threes. Derek Jones hit a 3. The bench hit a couple of 3s. and Lively and Gafford were combined 6 of 6 from the floor. So that was kind of.
So I know one of the things I wanted to just note. So obviously the Dallas Mavericks play the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. Josh and I are not prepared to do any analysis on this. Like I don't really want to talk about them yet. I want to, maybe
talk about this moment.
I want to talk about this moment. That's right. And so I'm sure in the post show, lots of people have questions. If you guys want to talk about it in the second show, we can talk about it. But Josh and I are not really going to talk about this. One of the things my friend Seth Partnow mentioned to me, he's the writer of I think it's the Mid-Range Game, one of the best books on NBA statistical stuff that you're ever going to find. Pointed out that he's like, I'm retroactively mad at the Mavericks for sticking for making Dwight Powell like the constant role man for the Mavericks, and I think about that a lot in terms of the big guys. One of the things I really enjoyed in this game was Kyrie's attack early and often. Once he got it going, like obviously he let Luka go in the first quarter, but the second quarter and on, he really was great off of pick and roll and passes. He made one on a drive that was Luka-esque, where he kicked it out to Maxi Kleber on the wing for a huge three. At least it felt huge to me, mainly because Maxi shot didn't look good in game one. Maxi, I think, is going to be pretty important in the next series. And so watching him be functional as a multiple, like he didn't play five. He played, I guess you would say he played power forward, but I don't think he was ever out there by himself. Was he?
Tonight, I think he was always with Gafford or Lively, which is something they caught on in the Clippers series.
I mean, they're
huge. The end of it.
They're huge when those guys play. So it's, if you're thinking ahead, I know I just said we were not going to do this, but like the ability to have 7-footer, 6'10" guy and another 7-footer along with PJ, who has a massive wingspan, Luka, who is a large human, like the Mavericks just cover ground on defense. And that a lot. And so then those guys are also, semi-functional on offense, depending on who's doing what. There was a really good thread today from Dane Moore. I can't remember who he writes for, maybe The Athletic, who he isolated this series of basically pick and pops with Luka and Maxi, and called out the fact that it's basically some of these things are useless that the Mavericks are doing because the Wolves don't think Maxi's a threat. And like that was a great insight. Maxi has to be a threat. And I hope with another 9 days rest, he'll get that shoulder warm. And look, he doesn't need to shoot 60% from the series. He needs to shoot is what he needs to do. You cannot catch the ball on a pick and pop, an auto pump fake, and then pass the ball back to Luka. That's gonna be scouted. So I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, he did have 3 shots in 9 minutes, which is
sure
the right direction for
9 minutes. God, I feel like he was out there more. But that plus 8 in those 9 minutes. That's huge.
I mean, the Maxi plus center lineups were deadly in that first round against the Clippers.
Another guy who was absolutely deadly in this series, series 2, but Josh Green. Josh Green played a great game today. His statistical contributions, 2 steals. There was a play, Kevin Harlan was like trying to keep up with it, that Josh Green was involved in, where like every single Maverick and Wolf touched the ball, where it was like getting slapped around like a pinball. And Luka and Josh Green played a huge part in that. And, I get on Josh Green fairly regularly. Another gentleman who listens to the show regularly, also happened to be named Josh, gets on me about how much I criticize Green. But tonight, I watched him navigate a couple of screens really well, like going under, not dying on the vine. He's just got it. Did he score any points? He was 1 of 3, 2-point shot. He missed his 2 3-pointers. That's, those things come and go. But I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed his effort. I enjoyed his sort of spatial awareness, his awareness for the moment. And I'm really shocked. Like Josh Green, NBA Finals team contributor, really quite amazing considering the Josh Green that we were discussing in like 2020.
Yeah, that is quite the journey. We didn't even know where he would be as a basket. Like, would he still be playing?
No, I mean, I'm sure there's hours of tape proclaiming like that he, get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. Like that sort of thing.
Well, look, it didn't look like, he's like my kid. He was a pandemic baby in a way. It just
Ooh, yeah, man.
like everything gets lost to time. Like when he got drafted, he came out of college at like the worst possible time. So
Then
good for him.
Who else we got? We got the Jaden Hardy experience continues. Like
That's working. Keeps working.
Look, like if you're a Jaden Hardy guy and you want to scream at me, go right ahead, because the Jaden Hardy experience against the Timberwolves was absolutely fucking hilarious. There was not like they were not prepared for him ever, which is a riot because he is so peculiar. Like I made a tweet. He does you can tell Kyrie's helped him. Like there's a lot of control things that he's gotten better at as the year goes on. I think if 3 of 5 from the floor. Did he have any other? No other statistical contribution. Shout out. That's what I'm talking about, including a big 3-pointer. I liked his driving more this series, but one thing I hope he'll see during tape is like you're 6'3" and about 195 pounds. Don't get someone on your back hip like you're Luka Doncic. Once you get past someone, go. He pulled back into double moves a couple of times. Like he had one turnover. It was really uggo that actually got him pulled from the game. But like I've had real criticism about his straight line speed, but his ball handling looked pretty good in this series. And if he's going to get past somebody, I just want him to get past. Go through, dribble out if you have to. He made some really nice passes this series. Showed some like playmaking-ish that, quite candidly, Tim Hardaway never has. And that's why he played. And I don't know. I mean, being proud of an NBA player is so paternal, and I don't want to say that, but it's just like I am glad I am wrong on him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And then, it's also like he didn't do anything in the Thunder and the Clippers series either. He had one pretty decent game in the Clippers.
Right. He might not play next series. He might not be the guy because
that's okay.
The Celtics are, but it's like you mattered in a Western Conference playoff series in your second year. That's awesome.
Look at what Minnesota would have loved to have someone random from their bench pop off. Like they were desperately searching for it. And then Hardy comes in and does that. And it's I think two things. One, like Kid going to him says two things. One, he does still have some confidence in him. And two, like he was really scrambling for any type of backup guard minutes because Exum didn't have it. And you could really tell, like Tim didn't have, like you could tell he was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep trying all these guys and just see if one of them pops, which, hey, credit to that. Cause some coaches would get stubborn and just play like Tim. Like Tim was the veteran. Like they would just keep playing Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tim didn't play. I don't think he played in the last two games. I mean, he really wasn't a factor in the series at all minutes wise. So, credit to the coach, for Kid for going to him, sticking with him, not being stuck and being stubborn with it, because Lord knows, especially Mavericks fans, have seen coaches get stubborn with their veteran players. Don't need to go down that road right now.
I'm really glad you brought up Kid, because I as I was listening to our pre-series thing, one of the things I mentioned was the coaching analysis, and I said that Finch being on the back line was going to be problematic for them. Chris Finch really, really sucked. Like I'm sorry. Like he sucked. Every single coaching interview, he bitched about offensive fouls. He bitched about 3-second calls. How about you draw up some offense for your really good players, big guy? Why don't you do something with that? Screaming at the refs, and like I've gotten to arguments with people like Luka screams at the refs all the time. You tell me when Luka has ever gone in the post game or to the media and bitched about foul calls ever. Has he ever done it? Do you remember?
No, not really.
He's not that guy because it's all on the court. Whereas Finch was just whiny and wouldn't, I said something very specific that I think is funny. Like I'm sure a lot of our people who comment don't really know what the hell I'm talking about with this. But I tweeted that Chris Finch's coaching demeanor has the energy of a political campaign fundraising text. Like shrill, fake, and ultimately full of shit. And I was very annoyed with just his coaching because I'm sorry, like they have good players. They have really good players, and they should have gotten more from those players earlier.
Do you think it's because Kid, like their backgrounds in basketball? Because Kid was a superstar, all NBA, level player, and obviously I don't know what Finch's basketball. He wasn't
sure.
He wasn't that. So, like, do you think that comes with part of it? Like that's the kind of guy that would criticize the refs, and then the guy that's like a superstar that's used to like having to be like, I have to pull my weight, like regardless of what the refs do. Like, do you think that factors into some of that?
I certainly do. I think that's actually a large part of it, particularly in the playoffs. I mean, friend of the show who we clash with basketball opinions like oil and water, and that's fine. Jeff Skin Wade once tweeted out within the last probably 60 or 80 days, something along the lines of like, those of you who have coaching opinions basing it all off of your sort of experience in high school are missing a large part of the point. It drove me crazy just because Skin sometimes does the thing where he's like, I know more than you, which I think in this particular instance, he made a pretty good point in relation to this playoff series, because what Kidd has done he's basically shed a really rough reputation. Guys, like I don't think you understand how much Kidd was not appreciated or respected within NBA circles of like media related people.
And Kirk knows people that would
know people, right? I don't mean to be I just have heard some wild shit from his previous stops that is like absolutely true, and he's changed all of it by pressing the buttons when it matters the most. We quite understandably as fans lose our minds during the regular season because we want the Dallas Mavericks to win every game. We want them to be a high seed. Being a fifth seed making it to the finals is bananas. And Kidd deserves a huge part in that because he's pressing all the right buttons at the right time. I'm sure a lot of people, when Lucas said somebody went to him or people went to him and told him before game 5 of the Thunder series that he needs to play with joy, somebody said, well, it'd be crazy if Kidd's not done that before. And I'm sitting here thinking, why? Why is that crazy? You only get so many opportunities before someone tunes you out. I mean, you're a parent. I'm a parent. I have an 8-year-old.
Pick your battles.
You've got to. It's really, and if you're as an outside observer, if I'm at a restaurant and I watch somebody's kid losing their mind and I'm like, that guy must be a shitty parent. The realistic thing is we don't really know what's going on. Whereas, there's only so many times you can have to get through to somebody before they completely tune you out. And he's just done a good job. Now, I also think the other part of this, they built the roster to what he wants. And that is extraordinarily important. So I just, I've been really hard on him for 3 straight years in a lot of respects, but they're going to the finals. So there's gotta be you just got to say, okay, I was wrong. I'm okay with that. I don't care. That's what's so annoying to me. There's so many supposed fans of this sport where people would much rather be right about their opinion than have their team win a game. I fucking care. Nobody cares what I say relative to anything. I want the Mavericks to win a title. I want to experience, you were at my birthday party. We had 60 people in a room going nuts when the Mavericks were won game 6. That's what I do it for. I do it for the feeling and to experience something, not because I want to be right. Who cares about being right?
You really don't care. You will take it on the chin if it means that the Mavericks win a game. And
people ever rub that shit in my face, and it's who fuck, again, I'm a Salesforce administrator with my highest level of basketball played was 5A in Texas in 2002. I got my butt kicked in college by women's players as a member of the practice team. Basketball is a pretty straightforward sport to understand. It is a very difficult sport to master. And people have just got to lay off with the whole, I was right. Shut up.
Okay. But having said that, I was right.
You're better. Yeah, but you're this is what I tell people. Josh has the ability to look at stuff and go, oh, this is what is happening. And he's right. This is crazy.
So, but I want to kind of get into that now because I know you don't care about your opinions being validated, but I think we should validate some opinions because we've had some lately. And I think we are allowed to take some victory laps right now. Obviously the series prediction, we've talked about that, that's a little harder because, there are a couple of coin flip games that could have made this Mavs in 6. So I'm not going to ride that all the way in.
Sure.
But the reasons they won the series, I felt very confident in that ended up happening. But me and you have been doing this I think I started doing a podcast the last Harrison Barnes season, maybe, or maybe the season before Luka got drafted, and then you came in and really took over. I think maybe either the season before Luka got drafted or the year Luka got drafted, and then I think we started regularly recording together, like Luka's rookie year or something around that time. And I think we've been pretty consistent in our opinions about team building. In that, if you want to be a better team, brace yourself. You have to get better players, and you have to want to get better players. And I think what me and you have been raging against the machine for so many years that got people so pissed off at us in the 2019 offseason, 2020 offseason, 2021 offseason, 2022 offseason was we continually we knew what the strategy was. They were either star hunting, and if they didn't get the star, they were bargain shopping because they believed that they could pay less for the same production, which is not an opinion. That's an opinion that's shared amongst other smart sports people. I mean, the Oakland A's, famously championed that in their Moneyball run. Like, that's not a crazy cuckoo lunatic thought about building a sports team. But me and you have been like, that's fine in small doses. And it's a neat trick to pull off when you can continually turn these low cost signings into high production players. But in the NBA, chalk wins. And it's maybe the most chalk wins sport out of the major four pro sports. You do not see upsets in the NBA too often, although we've seen some recently. But at the end of the day, talent wins. There hasn't been, I don't think, what was that stat? It's like a 3 seed has been an NBA champion for the last 30 straight years or something. Like, you don't see 8 seeds winning titles. You don't see 7 seeds winning.
I mean, a 5 seed has never won the title. A 6 seed did, and I think it was the Houston Rockets. Like, the
Heat making the finals as an 8 seed is ridiculous. Is why it was so crazy, because in the NBA that just doesn't happen. Because with the first round, every series being 7 games, the better team's probably going to win over 7 games. It's not a coin flip like NFL playoffs can sometimes be, because it's 1 game, or MLB can be because of the variance, like with starting pitching, or hockey with the goalie variance. The goalie gets on a hot streak. So we've been saying, they need to spend money, and they need to they need to get talented play. They need to stop trying to band-aid the roster with undrafted players and second-round picks. Dwight Powell, who I've been a staunch defender of for years, he's a second-round pick that they were starting at center for 3 years of the Luka era. So I'm not going to go into all these other players that they tried, because they did their best. I mean, the Mavericks went to the 2022 conference finals with Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock as their starting forwards. And now you're just looking at this team and you're like, what? Now they have Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, and PJ Washington, who are all very high pedigree players. Gafford was a second-round pick, but Lively 10th overall. PJ Washington was 12th overall from Kentucky. At a certain point, you just have to get good players, and you have to get talent. And you can't sign DeLon Wright for this cheap deal because you think, oh, well, we can sign him for cheaper because he's going to actually outperform that contract and perform like a player that gets paid $15 million a year. But we're going to sign him for $9 million a year, and it's going to be the same. No, that's not how that's fun, but it's not always going to work. You need to get good players. And I feel like we've been banging that drum since 2019, so to speak, and they finally did it. They got Derek Lively, who's the highest draft pick they've had since Luka. They traded for PJ Washington, who, like I said, was a former 12th overall pick from Kentucky. They traded for Kyrie Irving, an all-NBA, all-star level player. And then that makes your Derek Jones Jr. minimum signing hit all the more better, because now instead of him hitting and needing to be your 4th or 3rd best player, he's like your 5th best player. So it just changes things when you actually put good players around your stars. And I think it was driving me and you nuts when they kept trying to be like, well, we have Luka, he'll make up the difference, right? No. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You need the best to win. And they finally got the best talent this is the most talented team they've had, I think, since the 2011 title team. And I think that's indisputable right now.
I just need to you were off on a great tangent. I don't mean to change directions randomly. But this is a great comment from D Smith. He says, did Dirk reclaim his title of best shooting big man ever tonight? Not sure how this works. The thing, Mr. Smith, and this is my authority. I went and asked Chat GPT a couple days ago this very question: who is the greatest shooting big man of all time? And it answered that Dirk Nowitzki is considered the greatest shooting big man of all time. So sorry, Karl Anthony Towns, if you can't convince the large language models of the world that you are the greatest shooting big man of all time, then it's not going to be there for you. Man, you said so many things that I don't even really know where to go from here. I mean, we're almost at 45 minutes. We had a great time. We're going to be talking about this sort of stuff. We got roughly, I mean, today's Thursday, so the Mavericks play a week from now. We have like 6 days of content to kill. I told my wife how happy I was to be able to go to bed at the normal hour, which is stupid. I can't
fucking wait.
No, but you and I are full of shit though. Like we don't go to sleep at normal times. What we're excited about, we're excited to not work until 2 a.m. Like even if you're playing Halo and I'm playing whatever 4-year-old video game that I'm playing because I'm always behind on stuff. I'm just excited to not work. But then there's the fact of like, I like doing this. I like talking about basketball to people. I really can't wait to not to get random media requests from around the country, but not talk to anyone in the Dallas area. That's always my favorite thing. You and I are just quietly on our own weird island. I do think this is I think we should kind of table the rest of the stuff that we want to talk about and then reconvene over the next several times we do, because I think you and I will podcast at least 2 more times together before the Mavericks play the Celtics. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, well, at least do like a proper series preview like we did for the first 3 series, and then we'll probably pop in again with what we're thinking, because 6 days off, you said?
6 days off. So
we gotta fill that time for sure.
We will do just that, because we worked hard to get to this moment as podcasters. We're not players. What I mean to say is that we work hard along with the most attention being focused on the team, so we might as well pay off by working whenever people are also doing it. All right, before we get out of here, I want to give quick shout outs to a few more folks who left tips. Michael Stetler says the Wolves need our best center in the head, and thought they'd actually figured out something strategy-wise. That's sad. Glenn King says, again, it sucks for Minneapolis that they had to play the Mavs at full strength with Lively and Kleenex. Unfair. My man Brian, who I hope will be on our next show, says Lively, Josh, and Jaden have become the kind of players we prayed they would be in a year or two. Came up so huge in many big spots in this series and playoffs. Omax is up next. Then in some sort of currency that I don't understand, Don't Even says, credit to Josh Bowe for being correct and level-headed about this team time and time again. We're all calling for Kid to be fired after that 5-game skid after the deadline, and he said we would be fine.
Oh, shit, I forgot about that.
It's a pretty good pitch, man. Then we have, now this is just, you'll laugh, that this is actually Taiwanese funds. He says it's actually $10. He says his name is Ellery, and he says Josh Bowe victory lap, but it's a great big figure, and none of us know how math works. But once again, he's in Taiwan. He's giving us $10. This is amazing. And then we got Too Much Mavs, longtime friend of the show, says the Mavs are in the Western Conference Finals champs. We're back in the finals, baby. I'm beyond happy right now. Go Mavs. MFFLs. We are 4 wins away from that second trophy. That's absolutely right, man. Longtime listener Leo says, I listen to the 2019 offseason pod and the Luka draft pods at the end of every season. To watch what this front office has done is special and unprecedented. I think you're right about that, Leo. And then Jordan says, LFG Mavs, much love from Vancouver. Worldwide podcast. Love this show. Love this fan group. Before we go and we go to our next show, I'm not going to put this on Twitter because I don't know. I think tweeting about stuff like this is weird, and it's like asking for it doesn't necessarily matter, but I think it's fun. We had the opportunity to credential somebody from Mavs Moneyball. Josh Bowe will be attending at least one game as Mavs Moneyball's correspondent. We could have had credentials all year, but like you guys know, we have jobs and we cannot and kids, we cannot commit to being that of a beat writer and still making content. But I really think that it's great that Josh is going to get to go to games. We will figure out our podcasting schedule probably a little bit later. It'd be hilarious if you have to record from the thing. We might have to talk to a friend of the show, Nick Angstad, on how the hell that works.
I got Wi-Fi there. You make it work.
Yeah, and if I have to record to somebody else because you're working or driving home, then we will figure it out. But Josh has been covering the Mavs at Mavs Moneyball since at least 2012. Is that right?
Summer of 20, right after they won the title.
Almost 13 years. You used to go to games a lot more when you were a younger man. And it's why we always respect the people who go to the games and write stuff and make, because it's like the act of going to a game is physically exhausting, guys. Like, I don't want to, it's sometimes I make fun of folks that don't do as much, but it's like, you go to the game and you're there and you're watching if you're taking photos and taking notes, it's just a beat down because there's 41 of them that you have to go to.
You're standing around a locker room for 45 minutes after a game, waiting for players to come in after they're done showering, and then you talk to them. Like, it's not like going to like a fan where you just go and then the game's over and you leave. You have to hang around and talk to people. I didn't get home till 1 a.m. midnight, between midnight and 1 a.m. And then I'm like, oh, I got to get my story from the game up on the site by tomorrow morning. So I'm not going to bed till 2. And it's just like, woe is me. But
it is tiring. It's like why people get so like pissy with Brad Townsend and some of the other folks that are actually writing things, because, and there's a fair amount of folks that go and catch video and go home, and they just don't do the actual act of putting out the content is very challenging. And it's why not everybody does it. I couldn't do it. Like, I went, Rick Carlisle yelled at me at one, like my first time I went to a thing, because I didn't know where I was supposed to be. And like, I'm not scared of shit, but Rick scared me. And I was like, I'm not built for this. I'm not doing it. It's fine. It's fine. Like, I'll just sit at home on my couch, and then people criticize me and they're like, you just sit at home on your couch. And I'm like, you're exactly fucking right. It's great.
Where I want to be. Where I want to be.
That's right. Okay. So everybody hang out here for our next show. I can't wait to I'm really looking forward to talking to different Mavs fans. This has been a really wild, I want to say I can't believe we're here, but I can believe we're here. I can believe it. It's outstanding. Everybody listening on the audio only podcast, Apple, Spotify, that sort of thing. The secondary show will be up Friday afternoon and into your weekend. And I bet Josh and I will probably record something again on Sunday, but he and I will both probably cast out and see if there's anybody else we want to talk to about this Mavs team, because
your shadow broker connection.
These finals are going to be fucking gnarly. It's styles make fights, and it's the basketball, the storylines. Can't wait, man. Can't wait.
Especially after last year, because like it felt kind of deflating. Like, everyone knew Denver, Miami was going to be Denver.
That's right.
Relatively easy. Like, this will be high level competitive basketball. I feel like for
Joe Mazzulla meets Jason Kidd in the NBA Finals on ABC.
The two best coaches in the NBA.
God, what a sentence. All right, guys, we'll be right back if you're watching on the stream, and we will see you guys tomorrow if you're listening on the audio show. Thanks so much for hanging out. We appreciate all of your support, and go Mavs.